Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I am Monica Sigmon, Sony Artisan of Imagery, and this is part 5 of our Sony Alpha Female, the interviews series. A big thank you to B&H and Sony for giving us the opportunity to feature amazing creators from our community. So today, I'm really excited, and I've got to rush through all my intros because I got to make you big here on my screen so I can see you. Okay. I'm really excited because today we've got Nancy Borowick, and she's just a lovely human as well as an incredibly talented, smart, accessible, kind
Oh,
hustler.
yeah.
Yeah, hustler, because you are constantly you constantly got something in the works, you're constantly thinking, strategizing, and I love it. So we're going to talk a lot about that today. But for those of you who aren't familiar with Sony Alpha Female and what that community is, we've got a great Facebook page. Just search for Sony Alpha Female. We've got, gosh, thousands of members, over 10,000, over 12,000, I think now, over 14,000 maybe. And you don't have to shoot Sony to be a part of that community. So we welcome you. We want you to join in. There's all kinds of great conversations and opportunities to pick brains and in a really supportive environment. So it's a really, really great resource. So we invite you to join us over on the Facebook community. And that's also where you will get the notifications for these events. So welcome, Nancy. I'm going to scroll through some bullet points of your bio, and then we're going to get into it because we've got a lot. You have exhibited your work in over 100 cities globally. Have you been to every one? Okay.
Unfortunately not.
Working regularly with the New York Times, you've also contributed to National Geographic, Time Magazine, Oprah Magazine, Washington Post, and many, many more. You have recently included, let's see, you've gotten many awards, World Press Photo, Pictures of the Year International, and most recently, the Humanitarian Award from Women That Soar. You got 2019. You were named a Sony Artisan of Imagery. Whoop, whoop. And you were also that year, I don't even know what this is, but you were named a Kickstarter thought leader. So we'll circle back to that because I don't know what that is. And you're on the board of trustees for the International Center of Photography. Recently, just a few years ago, you moved to St. John, which I'm also excited to talk about. And you, like I, are obsessed with mentoring and empowering women in this field. So that's just kind of like a little background on Nancy. And what I would say about Nancy, if I had to describe her in one sentence, is that she is a truth teller in every sense of the phrase. And I just have so much respect for what you do and how you bring such a unique voice to everything that you touch. So so we're going to open with you just sharing a couple of your favorite images, and then we're going to get into all the things. So for those people who maybe don't know your work or aren't familiar with your work, what's your Instagram handle?
It's just my name, Nancy Borowick. NancyBorowick.
Yep.
It's pretty easy to find me. I'm everywhere.
Right.
And thank you for that wonderful introduction. You're the best. I can't wait to give you a IRL hug.
Just let's see, a week from yesterday, we'll all be together.
Oh my gosh, so excited. Okay, so time is of the essence here, so I don't want to dilly-dally. I'll share my screen and tell you a little bit about some of the images that I've pulled.
And just by the way, for our viewers, Nancy is a chatty Kathy.
Oh yeah.
And I am too. So I'm going to
watch out live.
So don't think that I'm being rude when I go, Nancy, okay, we're moving on. It's because we've already prefaced this conversation with the fact that might have to happen so that we can get to all the topics.
Yeah, Absolutely. Perfect. This is why I love you. Okay. So you told me to pull a few of my favorite images and
Yep.
it was very difficult. So I think you could see my Lightroom now.
Yes. Yes.
I'll do it. Oh, I thought I could go, whatever. Anyway, so I have been a working photojournalist, maybe about 14, 15 years now. So I've always been a storyteller. I have it on a good account that as a young child, I was a bit of a tattletale. And I think it was just because I was so curious about other people's stories and wanted to learn more. My intentions were pure. So anyway, I've been working on all kinds of things over the last 14 years, and the first image that I've pulled here speaks to a big body of work that I did, a personal body of work that I call the family imprint. It was a story that I did about my parents who both were in treatment for parallel stage 4 cancers at the same time. And what I ultimately did was use my camera as sort of a personal journal so I could be with them, but also have a little bit of a safe distance from the reality of what was happening. So I followed our lives. And ultimately, what I ended up photographing wasn't so much the cancer, it was more about living and life. And this was one of my favorite images because it tells you a little bit of a story about both of my parents and their relationship. And a moment after this, I took this photograph. My mom swatted my father's hand away. And it was just a really complicated and beautiful and devastating and profound time in my life that has really kind of, it's sort of it's the project that put me on the map professionally and really shaped me as a photographer. We'll go into that more later. It was so hard picking some of my favorite images, so I just committed
I love
to
it.
what I
Oh
could.
my gosh, this is great.
Okay, here we are. Sorry, I was trying to not darken myself. So this is one of my favorite images of the last couple of years because I am a mom now of 2 young boys. And my very first born son was my dog Einstein. And the transition to having children in the house was a really hard one for him and for me and for everyone. But you always could find him sitting beneath the high chair waiting for something to drop. And it was just such a sweet moment to me. And I've spent I've spent a lot of time under the table photographing my dog waiting for something to drop.
That is awesome. I love it. What a great story.
And I mean, that leads me to my next photograph. I love dogs. It was not so
Same,
obvious
same
yet.
girl, same. That's why we're the same. Yes.
Yes. And one project that I've been working on that I'll talk a little bit more about later is I call it Part of the Pack. And I've always just been interested in people who breed, own, and show dogs. Less about the dogs in performance and more about behind the scenes and what life looks like at home. People who have kind of committed their lives to these animals, specifically, which breeds they've picked. And seeing kind of the dynamic, not just between the humans and the animals, but then also some of the human children that these people have. And it's so easy to make assumptions about them. And I think approaching it, kind of with an objective perspective has been really fun because it's allowed me to see certain things I didn't expect. And I think it also, in some ways, has made people trust me a little bit more because they knew that I was just really just there to learn about them. And when I learned that this woman went to bed every night with her 8 whippets, I said, I need to fly down to Florida immediately and be there for this.
So great.
One more dog photo. One of my favorite things as a photographer is to just kind of wander around and observe. I do a lot. I do a lot of that just generally, but it's extra fun with my camera. And this was, I think, one of the first photographs I had published in the New York Times. There was a section called Panorama, I think, or Panorama. And I remember photographing this moment and thinking, gosh, these Dachshunds are panorama. Their shape.
Oh my
and
God,
then
that's
here was
great.
one dressed as a hot dog. I couldn't handle myself. So that one had to make it in. It's one of the oldies but goodies.
Yep.
I'm trying to move through these efficiently. This is a diptych from a project I'm working on currently called The Lost Mother's Stone. And it's a portrait project, which is sort of like out of my usual space. I like to live in the reportage observational photography. And in this case, I'm really trying to hear a story, internalize a story, and make a portrait that empowers and honors the person that I'm photographing. And what I'm focusing on specifically is mothers, women who have lost a child in stillbirth. So a fetus after 20 weeks gestation, many of whom losing them at the end of pregnancy in the last weeks. And their stories, it really started from a place of, I was looking to tell stories of birth trauma after I experienced certain traumas in the birth of my sons. Luckily, I got to leave the hospital with healthy boys. And the path led me to this, and it's been sort of driving me over the last few years. So it's still kind of in progress, but we'll discuss. This photograph, it's not my best photograph, but it's really important to me. When I was just getting my feet wet, no pun in, well,
No
these
pun
these are
intended.
hands.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't help myself. When I was just getting my feet wet in photojournalism, I found an opportunity teaching in this rural village in Ghana, and I was like, I have no job, no plans. Like, this seems like a great opportunity to like travel, and I went to this village called Mori and fell in love with the kids I was teaching, and it broke my heart to see that they constantly, multiple times a day were going to fetch water from the well that was like a mile away. And I said, okay, like I was young, idealistic, naive, and thought I have to change this somehow. And I went back to New York, and this was back in 2008, I think 2007, 8. I fundraised to build a well, and it took a few years and a lot of heartache and frustration, but ultimately raised about $11,000, built this well, and went back on a trip to finally see it finished. And it was just such a cool moment to see that my photographs actually made real impact.
Yeah.
And so that was really cool. And I keep in touch with some of the kids to this day. It's so crazy. They're all like
Grown
adults now.
Yeah.
It's so strange. And then the last image that I'm including is just, I don't do a ton of nature photography, but I want to lean in more. I live in the US Virgin Islands in the Caribbean, and like we get like at least one rainbow a day. It's ridiculous. And I photograph it. I'm a photographer. I'm always trying to photograph it better. Rainbows are hard, and sometimes I'll shoot it and realize that my camera is so dirty. There's just so much dust in the picture. But this one day, it was such a vibrant rainbow. And as I'm photographing it, this bird, it's called a magnificent frigate bird, came flying through. And I was like, okay, I get it. I get what nature photographers feel like. And I get why they do it. Because I felt like for so long, I felt such a deeper connection to photographing people and animals. And now it's Mother Nature and all the things. And anyway, so those are some of my favorites right now. Like, it's so hard. It was an impossible task. But
I love all of them. Thank you for sharing those with some behind the scenes, some background to them too, because I love your perspective when you're photographing. I call it EDL, everyday life. Like, your perspective is so cool, and your use of depth of field to just really bring attention into the story that you want, but still keep the surroundings as an important element. So, so hopefully we'll have time to talk about that more. So
yeah.
Thank you for sharing all of that. Okay. So I'm going to start with my favorite question that I ask every person on this series.
Okay.
Is photography itself the passion, or is it a means to the end?
I think it's a means. For me, it's a means to the end, because I love photography, but I think what I love most about it is it gives me access to people and to telling stories and to being nosy. And just like it's always been that tool for me. And I feel like I feel so comfortable with it. And when you have that connection with someone where they feel comfortable, it's just a really special way to communicate. I don't know. I've never really thought about it like that, but I think that's how I would answer it.
I think it's great. Why photojournalism?
I always loved photography. I didn't think I could make a career out of it. And then I I decided to go to the International Center of Photography in New York and there was a 1 year doc. I think they've changed the name of it, but it used to be photojournalism and documentary photography. Um, because I needed to hone my skills. And I knew that I loved photography. I just didn't know what to do with it and how to keep doing it.
Mhm.
And when I was in that program, I learned a lot more about photojournalism and the impact that images can really make on people's lives and the world. Um, and I think I've always been interested. Like I've tried my hand at other types of photography. Like I had an assignment early on to shoot this little fashion spread, and it was fun, but you could tell I didn't like care that much about it. It just like wasn't my passion. Um, it's kind of the same with like street photography. I enjoy observing, but I like to get in. Like when I tried to do street photography, I find myself meeting people and following them home. Like I don't know how to just be.
I'm
Just
laughing
like
because I can totally see that. Like I feel like this is kind of why I asked the question, because I think a lot of people think of photojournalism as documentary.
mhm,
And I feel like you see photojournalism as access
mhm.
for your curiosity
Yeah.
and influence, like impact.
Yeah.
I mean, photojournalists have, like you said, just such an opportunity to affect change and bring attention to
Yeah.
something that the world doesn't know about.
And once you've had that experience, like I feel like one of the first experiences, well, the well in Ghana, I was like, wow, my photographs can inform people and it can actually change lives. Like that was it was mind blowing because I was like, that's the kind of work. If I can do that, like I want to keep doing it.
Right.
And it's happened in like big ways and in small ways. Whether it's like working with children who've been trafficked, and helping organizations support the work that they're doing to help these kids, or it's meeting a family after their house burned down and telling their story, which then gets published, which then leads to funding, people caring and wanting to help this family in need. It's like it's it gives you it just gives back so much
Purpose.
that I feel very lucky that I get to do that work.
I'll just be over here feeling like a slacker for a second. And
And then also like nothing against fashion. I wish I had the passion for like I see amazing fashion photography and I'm like, gosh, like there's people who are so good at it and love it so much. And it's like everyone loves different things. And
yeah.
like you love portraiture and you're so good at it. Like it's like I know my strengths and my weaknesses and I appreciate the strengths of others. So
And it's
anyway.
interesting that you say that about fashion, because I don't love fashion photography either. I can certainly do it, but I don't love it because it's not authentic, right? It's a
Yeah.
model set
Yeah.
up, you know what I mean? Like
Totally.
somebody's styling it. It's not even your
Yeah.
vision. So
Yeah.
I think we have that in common, in that
Yeah.
even though you and I approach things very differently, the underlying goal for us is to capture the real thing, tell the real story. So
Yeah.
whether
Absolutely.
it's, everyday life, or whether it's a family sitting here in the studio and I got to go digging for that relationship a little bit to
Yeah.
show that, you know what I mean? So, so yes, we have that in common also. Um, talk to
Surprise,
me.
surprise.
I know, right? And I should say how I met Nancy was 3-ish years ago, maybe 4. We were, I
Mhm.
don't even know if you remember, we were on a conference call and with Deb and Catherine, and we were talking about just all the things. And they ended up breaking us apart in groups. I don't know if you remember this, and
This
like
is
different,
ringing some bells.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then we had to come back together and talk about, and so you were in my room,
Yeah.
you and Sarah France at the same time. Like I wasn't an artisan yet. And so I was like so intimidated. And but that's where you shared your grief project, because I think you were right in the throes of it at that time.
Yeah.
I can't remember if the book had come out yet. But anyway, so you were telling us this story, and I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, like if this is the caliber, like how she's
Oh,
a rock star, like it was crazy. So so that's how I met you. And then you know, we got to spend some time together at some of the Sony events, and you've just always been so welcoming, which is another reason why I'm pushing people to that Facebook page, because it's just
yeah.
such an authentic
Yeah.
community. You know, everybody really does want people to succeed. And so you've always been kind to me
Yeah.
from the very, very beginning. So let's talk about that grief project, because
Okay.
my recollection of it, when I first heard about it, you know, both of your parents passed within very short time frame.
364 days.
Yes. And I remember hearing the story, and you were showing images of, like you said, just kind of documenting the hospital and the decline and all of it. And I was trying not to cry, and I thought, how is she getting through all of this without just, how do you even hold it together? But then the more I've learned about you, the more I understand that you felt compelled to keep it together because you want the message out there. Like it's almost self-indulgent at some point, right? To like break down and have all the feelings in front of all the people. Like,
Yeah.
would you?
You know, it's interesting. There when I tell the story of my parents, you know, it's been 10 years now since my dad died. 10 years. And we're rounding on almost 10 years since, or so this year
Yeah.
was 10 years, and my mom, it was 9 years.
And give everybody a little background onto that, the whole project as
Okay,
a,
so
because it's a
my
book
mom,
now, and
yeah,
yeah.
my mom had been sick on and off basically my whole life, and she had had breast cancer twice. And the second time she had breast cancer, I was a student at ICP, and I decided I wanted to photograph her and her treatment and all of that, because I just wanted to spend more time with her, and that was sort of a way I could do it and be in school. Um, and and I didn't realize how much actually photographing her was helping me process what was happening, right? Um, Eventually she had clear scans, years went by, life happened. Her cancer had returned, but it didn't seem that bad, and she was in treatment, and we just kind of were living life. And my father was suddenly diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and so here we were, and there they were side by side in treatment together. And I knew that I needed to just be with them. I had the flexibility as a photographer to kind of be in charge of my own schedule, and I it just became very real at the fact that I was 28 and
Wow.
29, and my parents were dying. Um, so I documented it, and I didn't think anything of it, right? Like I wasn't like, oh, this is a big project that I'm going to share with people. I was like, this is how I'm holding on to my parents, holding on in whatever way I possibly can, you know. And eventually I showed it to a mentor of mine, because I was worried that I was so close to the story that I was going to miss something. And once they were gone, I couldn't fill those holes. And it was a weird way to think, but that's just what I was like. I was worried, knowing how to tell a story. I was worried that I really didn't want to miss anything. Um, and I showed her the photographs, and she was really moved by them. And she said, you know, I think it would be valuable if you shared these in a more public way. They would really help other people going through something similar. And so I ended up submitting the project to a contest. I was too scared to cold email or cold call anyone. And I didn't win the contest, but one of the judges on the panel was James Estrin from the New York Times. And he emailed me a few days after the announcement of the contest and said, I need to publish your story. And that's when I started thinking about this project as a story. and as this experience as a project. And the more I started talking about what we were going through, the easier it was, because again, if I treated it like an assignment or I treated it like a project, wasn't, I could talk about it without it. Maybe it's a little bit of denial, but I could have a little distance. I didn't have to think about, I didn't have to fully
And
let
that's
it
how
fully
I
engulf
watched
me.
you present it, because it was very smooth and very,
Yeah.
very objective. And I remember even Deb and Catherine, who were hosting that session, saying, I mean, you were up on stage with hundreds, thousands of people, and just being able to tell that story on repeat, really, because you
Yeah.
were doing a lot of engagements. And so,
Yeah. Well, and the other thing that is worth mentioning, I think, is I'm also not a robot. Like there have been moments, which is really surprising to me, but like the first presentation I gave after I had my son, it's like I don't even remember which image it was, but something triggered and I just welled up on stage. Like
yeah.
it surprised me. And that's the power of photography, but also like the power of, I don't, it's funny when you're telling your own story, because as much as you can kind of outwardly share it, like can surprise yourself. I don't know, it's making me a little teary-eyed right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just remembering that.
Do you think that was because, like, was that grief in that moment of your parents not being able to meet your son? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And when I tell my story, it's amazing actually. I never knew I would be like this. I could be comfortable on stage in front of like thousands of people, but when I'm up there, I kind of like I'm in this zone where I'm not I'm telling this I'm just telling the story and I'm living it, and it brings me so much joy because I remember my parents so vividly. And I mean, you think that you're going to remember everything forever, always, but as you get older, memories do fade. And I'm a journalist. Everything is very documented,
Yeah.
which is, I love. Like, it's funny that I say that because when I was giving birth to my son Levi, I have a doc on my phone, a note, and I was journaling. I was live journaling his birth because I was like, I just need to remember.
Because of course you were, because yeah.
I mean, I also had my A9 next to me. Ultimately, I couldn't photograph very much because I had an emergency C-section, but
I love it. Phone in one hand, camera in the other. Tell me when to push. Yeah.
yeah,
Got it.
yeah. So it's, and actually in an attempt to explore how I've been able to give these talks and share the project, I started to reflect more, like, how am I able to do this? What made me like this? What were my parents like that allowed us to, my parents were very open and very, I don't know what the word is, but I think because they were so open and because we had such good communication, especially in those last years of their lives, I think it made it much easier for me then to, process. Because I think, I didn't start grieving when they died. I started grieving long before
Right.
knowing what was coming.
Right. What an incredible story. So the
Thanks.
book that you then published,
Yeah.
um, is it just about your parents? Is the Grief Project just about your experience?
Yeah. But the book is more like it's kind of like a family album. It's a scrapbook. I decided to create the book because while the project itself, you know, I had heard, many people had commented and shared with me that it was so helpful in what they were going through. I didn't want my parents' legacy and their story to be this one chapter of their lives, right? Like this was their final chapter, but there was so much more to them. And when we started to clean out our family home and uncover, these old family photos and these Valentine's Day cards that my parents wrote to one another, and we started to see them as not just our parents, but these two people, and
Life before
it was
children. Yeah.
life before children. It just was so informative, and I felt like I needed to honor their memory. by including all of this stuff. And if nothing else, for me, for me to then pass on to my kids, I could not have imagined the life that this book would have taken, and the story. It's one silver lining is that the story was ultimately published in the New York Times just a few weeks before my dad died. And so they both got to see the reaction and the response internationally. And I think it helped them feel like, their lives and their deaths had this greater meaning and purpose. And I don't know, I think people, I hope that in my life, right? Like, I hope that I do something, I make a stamp on this world that helps others. Like, that's, if at the end of my life that I've done that, I think I'll feel good.
Well, and so many people, I mean, what a gift you gave them too, because so many people don't get to see that when they're alive. It's said after they're gone, and tribute to them. And the fact that you got to show them while they were still here, the impact that not only on their own family, but how they had indirectly helped so many people watching or learning about their story.
Oh yeah. It was a really beautiful thing. The power of photography, the power of photojournalism, access to sharing these kinds of stories was really beautiful, especially because when you're going through something like this, other people are going through something similar, but it's your life and your reality. And so it's nice to feel not so alone. And that's definitely how we felt. And I think maybe, a little selfishly, I enjoy sharing the story too, because I feel like it allows me to meet more people who have shared experiences. It's an icebreaker. Like, I don't want to talk about the frivolous stuff. Let's talk about the real stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a thrill at parties.
So I'm the same way. I would much rather have a conversation like this. And then, I can work a room. I can certainly do it for work when we need to or whatever. But this to me this is why I love this series, because we get to talk about the heart of the things. So, okay, I'm trying to figure out, where are we on time? Okay, so let's move. I mean, you attack tough topics. So the Grief Project, and then the Lost Mothers. So
the Lost Moms.
Lost Mothers. So give us an overview of that project and what you have to accomplish with it, why you're tackling. I mean, it's you, Brooke, man. Like, you guys are like,
honestly,
all the hard things, and then Caroline and Sarah, who were interviewed, like, they're all the pretty, beautiful things, and I think it's just so great. So yeah.
Okay, so brief overview of that. I mentioned that I experienced some trauma with my birth with Levi, and then I fell into a really deep postpartum depression. And at a certain point, about a year in, I realized that I didn't want to live like that, and I needed to find a way out. And after having worked on this project about my family, I thought, okay, maybe it's photography. Maybe photography will help me out. I need to think of something productive and creative. And so I posted to Facebook, like, does anyone have a story about birth trauma they want to share, or the birth story they want to share? Which, you know how dangerous that is to post that to Facebook. Inundated. And the question I think I posed is that I want to tell birth stories. No, I think I said trauma. I don't know. I got a mix of responses. But one woman wrote to me, a grandmother, and said, "Are you telling stories of stillbirth?" I was like, stillbirth? Like, I didn't know that was still such a thing.
Right.
Such a thing, especially in the US. And it turns out it is. 1 in every 170 pregnancies ends in stillbirth, which is not nothing. And so I was like, you know what? I don't know anything about this. I want to lean in and learn. And what I found was I was really drawn to these women who had lost their babies at the end of mostly at the end of pregnancy. And I think it was because there was something, I was a new mom myself.
Mhm.
And actually, I was pregnant with my second son when I started this project. And
Look at
I
that.
really can,
I'm so sorry. Let me just interject. So, uh, okay, processing.
yeah.
How did how?
So I called my therapist. It
Okay.
sounds so
Okay.
ridiculous. I called my therapist and I said, do you think this is a bad idea? I'm pregnant. I'm working on this project about, child
And
loss.
after she said yes, yes it is, and you did it anyway. I'm just kidding. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, she actually was like, look, like the way you talk about this project and the way that you seem to really understand what you're doing. And I mean, I think you should trust your instincts. I don't want to tell you no, because I think you know yourself. And I was like, yeah, I do know myself and I'm going to do this. And what I ended up finding, so the women, I think I felt a connection with many of these women because, I mean, loss is loss and grief is grief, and there's no grief Olympics. I lost my parents in the natural order of things. Losing a child is, I can't wrap my head around it fully. But as having lost my parents, I related in some capacity to that grief, and all of that. And as a new mom, I felt for these women. And I have to say, talking with these women, learning about their experiences, learning about the fact that there are things that can be done. There is such thing as preventable stillbirth. There's advocacy. There's just, I felt so empowered as a pregnant person, knowing what I knew, based on what these women had told me. Uh, and I can't go into like too much detail right now. I don't have a million hours, but my goal with the project, now having semi completed it, is hopefully to publish it in sort of a public capacity. I want to publish it. I want it to be part of exhibitions, public exhibitions, because there were things that I learned, everything from just knowing you're normal, knowing what's normal and what's, or speaking up when you think something's wrong. As a first time mom, you're worried about being like that crazy woman who's calling all the time. Be that crazy woman. This is your child and your life and your body. Advocate for yourself. Like just that little
I'm like that
nudge.
with our dogs. Like
Yes.
at the
No. And no, but as
I
a
don't have,
dog mom,
so everybody understand, I don't have children of my own. So, yes. So
well,
my
and
husband and I, we are those people at the vet. The dog had a cough.
you
Do
know what?
we,
That's
do we need to
that
put,
that dog is your child, and I am a dog mom and a human mom, and so I really get it. And it's just made me, the fact that I've met women who have anecdotally, in their stories, shared where things could have changed, what change could have, if they had been listened to by their doctors, the outcome could have been
right.
different, enrages me.
Yeah.
So I felt empowered and enraged. And I was lucky enough to have two healthy babies, but I realized that not everyone, I expect better of our system. And I mean, I can talk on and on about maternal health care in the US, but not enough time.
So,
Anyway,
right.
so that is the project, and I'm working on it, and I want to keep working on it. Like I want to keep talking to families. And there was something about photographing the mothers, honoring them, honoring their memory. Like,
Because so many
as
people don't want to ask them about it, right? Like they probably don't have the opportunity to be or feel seen because
or
everybody
even have
wants
that,
to be so
and
careful,
nobody, and like people don't necessarily want to like acknowledge the lost
right?
child. And for
Not in a
someone like,
not in a disrespectful way, but just in a trying to be compassionate way,
yeah,
not bring it up. And then that can be very isolating.
totally. And one of the most powerful things for me was after each interview, and what I would do is I would pre-interview online before, and then I'd go and we'd do a video interview in person, and then I would make their portrait. Because I was hoping that the interview would inform the portrait, and that seems to have been what worked. Um, at the end of the interview, at the end of the day, every single one of these women said to me, whatever happens to this project, whether you include me or not, or whether it's published or not, like, thank you for
Mm.
caring, for
Mm.
listening. And it was like, oh, I
Yeah.
mean, it drives me even more and hopefully in the next couple months, maybe a couple weeks, it might be published. I can't tell you anything else, but like,
So
I have big plans for it.
as far as that goes, let's just sidebar here for 2
Oh
seconds.
yeah.
People want to be notified when that comes out or like hear about it so that they can then
Yes.
read about it and whatever. Like, what's the bet? How are we going to know?
I'm definitely gonna post it in the Sony Alpha Female Facebook group. I'm gonna share information on my Instagram.
Is
And
there like a newsletter or something that people
there
can?
is a newsletter. Yes, there's a newsletter on my website, nancyborowick.com. Sign up for it. It's semi-annual, maybe more often,
Okay, wait.
TBD.
So semi-annual. So semi-annual, like, because earlier, like, buy it. So are you doing this twice a year or once every 2 years?
I may have said once every 2 years, but I meant twice a year. Um, I know things now. Anyway, you can sign up for my newsletter on my website, and my past newsletters are
Drop
there as
that in
well.
the chat, I think, so everybody can
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
great.
And yeah, the goal is to share it. I think having seen the impact that sharing my family story had, this I need this for them. I'm so moved, and the idea that someone could stumble upon the exhibition and the story and say, "Oh, like, you know what? Now I'm gonna pay attention." Like when I was pregnant with my second son, I noticed his kicks. I noticed if things changed, and I wasn't scared. I felt empowered. Like I would rather have all the information than none of it. And so many of these women have been told that, like, when they've spoken to other people, that, you know, doctors are scared to talk about stillbirth. I mean, our society's scared to talk about miscarriage. Like it's just
Well, our
enough.
society doesn't even want to talk about menopause. Like,
Oh my gosh, no. Yes.
that's another topic for another show
Yes. Ooh.
for next
Yeah.
week when we're all together.
Oh my
Let
God, I
me turn
can't
on
wait.
my fan.
Oh my God, I am so excited.
Okay, so is this a good place to pause on that?
Yeah.
So we're going to pause on that. We're going to lighten it up for a second. We're going to go into, did I even show you how many pages I have of questions for you?
Oh my
So
God.
we are going to do your rapid fire now. We're going to lighten it up a little bit.
Okay.
And then we're going to come back to the dogs.
Okay.
That makes us happy. All right. So I know a lot of these answers myself, and I think that some people will be able to guess them now, having listened to this interview so far. But just for fun.
Okay.
Introvert or extrovert? I can't even
Extrovert.
like get it out without laughing because it's so obvious. Early bird or night owl?
Oh gosh. Pre-kids, night owl. Post-kids, early bird.
Okay. Movie or book?
Movie. I wish it was book. I just don't have the capacity. Audiobook. But movie.
Oh, okay. We'll let you have that. Call or text?
Text.
Right?
I mean, I love a good call. I just don't have time for it.
I can't. Text me. Sunrise or sunset?
Sunset.
Favorite color?
Green.
Really?
What's your favorite color?
Black. Have we met?
Okay. So, I mean, we also
met?
like, my favorite color, like, to wear is black. I mean, I added color today just to like change it up. Look at that right there. But oh no, obviously I think that's probably the first thing we connected on. I was probably like, great black outfit.
I'm like, I can't believe, is she joking? Like, is she making a joke right now?
I mean, I wear green on occasion, but it's black.
Yeah, it's black all the time.
Black.
My husband says my closet is the most depressing room in the house because everything is black. Like
you should have seen my suit.
If I wear gray, it's a rainbow. Like, yeah.
You should have seen my suitcases when I got back from Scotland last night. Like, I can't. I struggle. I struggle because everything I own is black. And so when it's all folded together, I just like sometimes I just like reach in. I'm like, this will do.
It's the greatest thing in the world. Perfect. Summer or winter?
Summer.
Weirdest quirk?
Vocalizing my inner monologue in inappropriate places.
Wait, vocalizing it or suppressing it, vocalizing it, or
No,
knowing not to vocalize it?
I have I have no,
No filter.
I have no filter.
Okay, got it. I love it. Best skill, not photography related, something you're great at.
Coloring in the lines,
Literally or figuratively?
literally. I'm really good at it.
Do you outline, wait, do you go around the edge first, like of that part of it, and then color?
To be honest, it depends on the paper. It depends on how absorbent the paper is, if it's going to leave line marks, but I generally do that.
So, interestingly, you're talking about like real drawing, and my mind went to coloring books.
Oh, no. I'm talking about I'm talking about coloring. I'm talking about coloring books. I'm like I'm a very intermediate drawer, illustrator. But I'm excellent with coloring in.
Do you ever do the what's it called? The
like mandala books or whatever?
Yeah. Is that your thing?
Yeah. I mean, they're all my thing. I on many a birthday and many not a birthday, I will treat myself to a new coloring book and a new pack of markers.
So I started doing that mandala drawing. There's a name for it. I don't know why I can't think of it, but
I also can't think of it.
I started it a couple of years ago, and then I got off of it. But recently, I think because for some reason one came across my Instagram, like watching somebody do it, and I was like, I need to do that again. So maybe
I wish so badly that I could meditate, and I struggle.
Not a chance.
And I know myself, but I find that when I color, especially if I'm feeling a lot of anxiety, which I'm known to feel, if I just give myself a few minutes of just quiet, mindful coloring, I feel like I can center myself.
Love it.
Yeah.
3 words to describe your last 3 years.
3 words to describe my last 3 years. Could it be my last 4.5 years?
Everything's a negotiation with you. Like
I come from a family of lawyers. I would say, well, 4.5, because 4.5 years ago I had my first son. So I would say transformative, humbling, and exhausting.
Black and white or color?
Ooh. Color.
This is a rapid fire section of the
This is not like a coffee by the fireplace. Color.
Most fun assignment?
Westminster Kennel Club dog show.
Oh, I love it. Next time, will you take me? I'll be your assistant.
Oh my gosh. Did you know you can go? You don't even have to get a press credential. You can just buy a ticket for like $20 and go and pet all the dogs. Oh yeah, you could definitely come.
Like I'll carry all your things. And
oh my God, I love that.
I promise I'll try it. Your hardest assignment?
That has changed with time, but I think one of my hardest first assignments was that one I mentioned about the family whose house burned down. This is quick fire, but it needs an extra story. When I showed up to photograph that family, I had gotten the call kind of late. So there had been tons of news and tons of press already there. And you could tell it was the father and the dog that were there. The dog had smelled the smoke, woke the family. The dog was the hero, obviously. And the family had already gone. It was just the father there. And so when I showed up, he was so not in the mood to talk or be photographed. And I was like, shoot, like as a compassionate person, like I get it. And I don't want to bother him, but this is my first big intense assignment for Newsday. And I was like, I can't let them down. I can't go back with nothing. You can never go back with nothing. And so I called my editor and I was like, I think this is going to take me a little bit more time. And she said, fine. And so I said to him, I was like, look, I don't want to pressure you, but like I'd love, or I think I was like, I want to spend some time. Can I like, I'm also a dog person. And so we talked about our dogs for a while, and we talked about our lives and his kids. And then finally then I was like, I don't want to pressure you, but I spoke to the newspaper and they said that they want to put your story on the front page if I can get the story in by this time. And the benefit of that, this might seem crazy, but the benefit of that is that someone might see it and want to help. But I understand if that's too much for you. I don't want to put your family through any kind of trauma. Like, I don't want them to come back here. Like, they could go someplace else. And he said, okay, let me call my kid. So he calls his kids. He has like twin 7-year-olds. And he goes, there's a photographer from Newsday. She wants to take your portrait to go on the cover of the newspaper. What do you think? And the 2 girls were like, yeah. So I was like, okay, well, why don't we go? Where do the kids feel safe? Like, what would be a safe place to take this portrait? Because at the end of the day, it's not about the house. It's about the fact that you guys survived. Right. And then I was like, what about the playground? And they were like, great. So we did the portrait. It didn't get in time, so it didn't make the front page, but it made the second page. And people really, he called me a few days later and he was like, I can't tell you how thankful I am. And it was like, it would challenge me to like figure out that balance between like
compassion and
when to push and when to not. And so that's like the one that really speaks to me as like the emotionally most challenging early on. And yeah, I mean, there have been many for so many reasons. Being a photojournalist and being a photographer generally, I think it's so much about trusting yourself and being resourceful. Because there were many times when I'd show up in an assignment and there was nothing there. The thing had already happened. And it was like, well, what do you do? How do you make this work? How do you make something? And because you can't go back empty-handed.
Okay, so I don't know if you remember, but this is a rapid fire.
Rapid fire. It's actually a slow fire by the fireplace.
I'm just watching the time and I'm like, oh my God, we have
okay.
a handful.
It's an analog fire. Thank you, Derek.
Okay.
Slow burn.
But and plus also this was supposed to be the fun part. So we're gonna switch gears back
Okay, sorry. I'm such a doubter.
You're such a doubt. No, I'm kidding. The most favorite place you've ever traveled?
Ooh. Most favorite place I've ever traveled. That's too hard. I've been no, I can't.
Fire. Pick one.
Pick one. Rural Thailand on my honeymoon.
Honeymoon. Wow. Hardest part of traveling with children? Oh my God. Like am I going to put a timer on you? I have to put a timer on you.
I'm not losing my cool in front of other people. No, just feeling bad because you know that they can't, like, it's, I don't know. I've gotten better with it at times. It's just hard. It's hard, but worth it.
Well, I asked because I was following your crazy travel, like bungle on your way to Scotland. Okay, we're not going to talk about it because you'll describe it for 20 minutes. So, New York. Oh, hold on. I'm being signed out. Michael, are you trying to get on Zoom? No. Okay. Can you still see me?
It's like the analog, like dial up, like, Mom, get off the phone. AOL chat.
I can't. Oh, more like them telling us to get off the phone. Like, you're still on the phone? Okay. New York or St. John?
You can't with these questions. I'm not a rapid fire girl.
Define rapid fire for you. Oh my God.
Oh gosh. I love St. John, but I'm a forever New Yorker.
Okay. Thank you. We're stopping.
But you see me.
We're stopping. We're stopping. Okay. Wide angle or telephoto? Your thing muted, but you said wide angle.
I did.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Something that you can't live without, not photo related.
Good markers and a coloring book.
Brooke said her Kindle.
Yes, I remember that. We're gonna pop quiz her in person. Show me the Kindle.
I'm going to just start rooting through her purse. One thing on your bucket list.
I would love to actually learn an instrument. I learned minimally as a child. I would love to be able to play like guitar or piano.
Okay. Wait, hold on. I just answered that one. Guilty pleasure TV show.
Love is Blind.
Oh my God.
I don't feel guilty about it either.
Favorite food.
Halloumi cheese.
What is it?
Halloumi cheese. It's an amazing cheese from Cyprus that you fry. It's kind of
Oh,
like
that one.
it's so good. It never even makes it to the plate.
I've never
we
even
cook it
heard of it. That's why I was like, oh, that one.
Also carrots. Honestly, I could go either way.
Carrots?
Yeah.
Half full or half empty?
I always mix this up. I think half full.
Optimist or pessimist?
Yeah, half full. Optimist.
Yes. I'm not going to ask you this because you will take way too long to answer that. So we're moving on. If you could have, I mean, wow. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Time travel.
What one item do you want in your purse or bag at all times, not photo related?
I don't have my purse in me
Thank
right now,
God,
but
because you'll start rooting through it on live. So let's come on, keep it moving.
I have these little stickers with Einstein's face on them. I give them out to everyone. I've already given out to you today.
Should I feel badly that I don't have one? I never got one.
They're new. Stay tuned. Okay. Watch out, Condo.
What's the quality you most cherish in a friend?
I think it's a tie between loyalty and vulnerability.
Ooh, that's a good answer. How do you recharge? This is a rapid fire.
Coloring. I'm pretty basic.
I can't even look at you right now. Favorite part of living in St. John?
Looking out my window at the water every day.
One non-photo item that you carry in your camera bag at all times.
Also, my stickers of Einstein.
Oh, I thought you were going to say your coloring book. I was going to be like, girl.
Oh God, I wish. There's no room.
Okay, what piece of gear would they have to pry out of your cold, dead hands? This is photo related.
My 35 1.4.
Really?
Yeah.
More than the body.
More than the body.
More than the camera body. Like what body?
I think so. I love that lens. I mean, I use the A1. I love the A1. It's more of a package.
Yeah.
It would have to be together.
Okay. So the 35 attached to
the A1. Yeah.
Because you're non-committal like I am. 3 words to describe the work you do. Your face right now. We don't have words. We just
we're skipping it. I don't have the capacity in this moment to. We don't have the time, Monica.
I should have known better. All right, moving on. I can't ask you this one. That'll take too long.
You're gonna have to tell me what those are later.
You will not stop talking about that one. I'm crossing that off. Okay. So fast. Nope, can't ask you that one. All right. We are gonna it'll just take too long. Actually, I do want to know the answer to this. So you're gonna have to just condense, like, okay, focus. Because this is the topic now. So your thoughts on AI.
I don't trust it or understand it. I want things to be simpler. But I will say AI has answered a lot of my mom related questions quickly.
Okay.
Like, how do I deal with this thing really fast?
Do you think it has a place in what you do at all?
I don't think so.
Okay. That's what I want to know.
So.
All right. I mean, we didn't even look at, I need you to understand.
I know.
I didn't even get to to these. We didn't get to like any of these.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's because you talk too much, but
This is who I am. So it is because I talk too much.
No, the only, this has been amazing. The only regret I have is there's so many more things that I think are valuable for people to learn from you. So we may
Do
have
we
to
have
do
time to quickly?
no,
Oh yeah, we don't
no,
have
because,
time.
because I want to like, so next time, because we're just going to say there's a next time, because I think that you can give people a lot of insight into balance between work and small children. I wanted to talk to you about how to pitch projects because
Yeah,
that's your like daily.
yeah,
And I know how important mentoring is to you. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit. And you're doing mentoring with B&H Event Space too. So do you want
yes,
to yeah, real quick?
sure,
I mean,
yeah.
like
So
really quick, like, you know,
okay, so a few years
big time.
ago, we started this. Created this thing called the Live Storytelling Mentorship, various names, but what it is that um I will collect projects from different people who would like to be reviewed, and it's less of a review actually and more of a live brainstorm where you send me your work and I'll pick two people for each session with B&H Event Space and Sony, and we'll go through your photographs, we'll talk about project development, we'll edit, we'll sequence. It's always helpful to have an objective perspective on your work. Me too. And it's really fun. And so we've done a bunch of them already. You can find them online through B&H. Um, and the next one is going to be September 12th at 1 p.m. I will be blasting it on all of the social medias, in the Sony Alpha Female Facebook group, all the places, so that you can know when it's going to happen. And then what I think is nice about it is that even if your work's not being reviewed, I've been told that it helps people think about their own projects in different ways. I mean, I certainly know when I've been the viewer, I feel that, and I'm constantly looking for more projects to review live as part of this storytelling workshop. So
if somebody's not ready to, because they go to that website that we posted in the chat earlier, right? To
yeah,
fill, yeah, okay. So if they're not ready to like full on commit to that, maybe they want to float an idea by you or see if they could do that in the Sony Alpha Female Facebook group, right?
yeah, that's a great place. Just make sure you tag me so that I'm aware, and then we can set something up. The other thing about the live storytelling mentorship that I was just telling you about, I'm not looking for completed projects. I'm looking for early stage projects or mid stage projects or projects where you're stuck and you're like, where do I go from here? How do I round this out? Because that's really where I think I could be the most helpful. But I'm accessible, and I obviously love to chat. So
I was gonna say, do you ever let them talk or no? Just kidding. Totally
no,
just kidding.
no, it's the one woman show. Just kidding. I
I'm
love
getting
listening.
I can feel the stink eye coming through the Zoom, even though their videos are off. So I want to close with
Okay.
what is the number one thing that you want people to learn from you? Or that you hope people learn from you, I should say.
I hope it's that you just gotta like, in this industry, and I think in life, you just have to like trust your gut, trust your instincts, be resourceful. That's not one thing, but I will say that like, yes, there have been points in my career where I won big awards and I was getting lots of assignments, and right now I haven't heard from an editor in months, and it can feel like you're completely like nobody, and have no, not nobody, but like you're like, what am I doing with my life and my career? Maybe I should quit. Maybe I should become a
Right.
ukulele player. Like I just,
Well,
all the things.
I call that Thursday. So I mean
But just I think so much of this industry is ebb and flow, and doors have closed and doors have opened, and new doors have been made. And sometimes you have to make your own doors. Sometimes when I go years without an assignment, I just self-assign. And that's how I found some really cool projects. I learned about something and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go out there and shoot it instead of my what I would instinctively do, which would be just sort of wallow in my own sadness.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Guys in the, I'm so excited. Guys in the control room, we're wrapping now. So, all right. So we're going to stop there. We're going to
Okay.
have to have you come back. And we're going to remind everybody to go check out the Sony Alpha Female Facebook group if we haven't beat that into you in the last 60 minutes. It is just so valuable because that's where we have found friendships like this, friendships with our friends Caroline Jensen and Brooke Shaden and Sarah France and Jean Fruth, the people that you've seen on this interview series already. If you have missed any of those, they're on the B&H Event Space YouTube channel. And we, again, just want to thank B&H for always supporting this industry. There's so many vendors that have, in the past several years, let this fall by the wayside. And B&H puts their money and their time where it counts. And so as professional photographers, we sure appreciate that. And the same, even more with Sony, right? I mean, Sony is such a big company, and you and I both feel very individually seen by them. And when they sponsor something like this, it's because they believe in the importance of sharing and community. And so we thank both Sony and B&H for helping this series come to be. And I didn't, I have no idea what the next date is or the next guest. So I didn't have that on ready for you, but we will keep you posted on that. So I'm going to try and be Derek for a second. Yeah, I don't know. He does something like with a salute, and this is he does like, this has been another edition of the B&A. Oh, there's the baby. Okay, Nancy, come back. So this has been another edition of the Sony Alpha Female, the interview series, part 5. And we can't wait to see you for part 6, which will be announced. And Derek is texting me, salute. We'll see you next time.